Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing a mid-year check-in for my 2020 reading and channel goals. So I have quite a few different goals that I set for myself this year. I will link the video down below where I talked about my 2019 reading year statistics and talked about what my goals were for this year. But here I will go through each of those goals and see how on track I am. I should be kind of halfway there or meeting those goals in terms of percentages. So I will check in and tell you how I'm doing on each of them. Overall, it's going pretty well, but there's a couple things that I maybe need to improve. So first, let's talk about my reading goals. For my reading goals, I have some main goals and some sub goals. So my main goals are just about how much I read. My goal for 2020 was to read at least 75 books. I am at currently 73 books, which means that I am at 97% of my goal. So I am way ahead of schedule there, and I knew that would happen. Last year I read quite a bit over 75, but for me 75 is just kind of a baseline minimum. As long as I hit 75, I think I'm doing great, especially because I know I read a lot of novellas and graphic works and children's picture books, all sorts of very short things, so this is fine. Another goal that I have is to read at least 30,000 pages over the course of the year. And currently I am at about 20,000 pages, so that's 67%, which means I am past that 50% mark, so I'm doing absolutely fine on that as well. Now moving on to my sub goals. So this year I wanted to read at least 25 nonfiction books. Currently I have read 15, which is 60% of the goal, so I'm past that 50% mark where I would expect to be, so that's going well. However, my next sub goal is to read at least 12 non-English books this year, and that goal is not going so well. I have read one. So that is about 8% of my goal, and that is not at the 50% mark where I should be halfway through the year. So that is definitely an area that I will need to work on if I want to reach that goal by the end of the year. My next set of sub-goals are all looking at the diversity of voices that I'm hearing in my reading. So I have a goal of reading at least 60% female authors, and I'm doing absolutely fine on that goal. Currently I am at 74%. My next sub-goal is to read at least 60% authors of color, and I'm not quite there on this one, unfortunately. Currently I'm only at 56%, so it's not awful, but it's definitely not as high as I'd like that to be. Also, there have been some really interesting discussions on BookTube this year talking about looking at not just kind of the percentage of authors of color that you read, but also specifically Black authors. So I went and I looked at that information in my spreadsheet, and it looks like of all of the books that I have read this year, 23% of them have been by Black authors, which means that of the authors of color that I have read, about 40% of those have been Black authors. So that's pretty reasonable. I also looked at the distribution across months because it has been pointed out that sometimes people read Black authors only in February, and even though February is my priority month for Black History Month, I still want to make sure I'm reading Black authors throughout the whole year. So I looked at that. So far this year I have read 17 books by Black authors, and 8 of those were in February. So I still have a pretty good distribution across the year, even if February is kind of the bulk of when I get a ton of Black authors read all at once. My next sub-goal is to read at least 25% by queer authors, and that I'm doing fine on. I'm currently at 32%. And my last sub-goal is to read at least 10% books that have disability representation. Here I can't really focus on just if the author has a disability or not, because often that isn't something that they share. So I'm looking more at what happens with the characters if there is a main character who has a disability that is a part of kind of their identity. And so this is a broadly defined category, but so far I think I'm doing fine. I'm at 18%, so that makes me pretty happy. Now moving on to my channel goals for 2020. So my first goal was to make 2 to 3 videos a week, and I've been doing great on that. I have definitely been putting out 2 and often 3 videos. I think that I really am aiming more for 2, but I've had so many things that I wanted to talk about this year that I've done 3 videos a lot of the weeks. My related goal is to do more standalone reviews, and this is what has really added to kind of my filming schedule and meant that many weeks I've done 3 videos, because I've done a lot of reviews and this makes me really pleased. So last year, for the whole year, I did 10 standalone reviews. This year, so far, halfway through, I've done 16. So that makes me really pleased. I very much enjoy doing a standalone review where I get to talk more in depth about all of the things that I really loved about a book and just kind of give that extra visibility and promotion for books that I really loved. So I'm very pleased with that. My next channel goal was to make sure that I added closed captioning to all of my weekly wrap-ups. Closed captioning is really important for accessibility, and so I wanted to get in the habit this year, but not necessarily hold myself immediately to the standard of closed captioning everything that I do. So I'm very pleased I have closed captioned all of my weekly wrap-ups, although sometimes YouTube doesn't show the little CC marker, but it is available if you click in and try to turn on the closed captions. And I have additionally closed captioned many of my other videos. So currently it looks like I've closed captioned 90% of the videos that I have published this year, and that's really good. The 10% that I didn't add CCs to were for 2 different reasons. So the first was there were a couple of videos that I posted when I had been on vacation and I just didn't have time to add the closed captioning before I left. So that was a timing issue. And then what's happened for quite a few videos in the past few months is that unfortunately, YouTube has not added the auto captions. So the way that I do closed captions is YouTube will automatically add closed captions, and then I will go in and edit those to fix the punctuation and capitalization and any words that it got wrong. So it's not a hugely time-intensive process to just go in and do that. However, there have been a number of videos that I've uploaded that it hasn't done any auto captions for. And the first time this happened, I went in and I tried to add the transcription myself, and that took so long, just hours and hours to do a very short video. And so I haven't done it for any of the subsequent videos that popped up that didn't have auto captions. And this is something I'm just trying to figure out. So if anybody knows more about YouTube and how auto captioning works than I do, please let me know down below what causes it to not do auto captioning, what I can do to avoid that. I've tried Googling it, I've tried talking to a couple of people, and I just cannot figure it out. So I really would love to get to that 100% captioned mark, but right now I'm kind of just struggling with YouTube. And then lastly, for my channel goals, I did have 3 projects that I'm working on this year. The first is my monthly priorities project, and that is going really, really well. The only month that I kind of skipped that was April because there was so much going on in life, and I just extended my March one through to April, and I did kind of like a 2-month one there. But I've been doing my priorities. I really like them. It's a fun way to focus my reading, so that's going well. The second project, however, is not going so well, which is the non-English book project. So as I mentioned before, I've only read 1 out of the 12 non-English books that I wanted to this year, and therefore I have done 1 review of that. So that project is something that I have not been prioritizing in favor of other things, and I'm not entirely positive that I'm going to make time for it either. So we'll see if this ends up being something that I catch up on or do part of, or if this just falls by the wayside and ends up not being a priority for me anymore. The last project that I have been working on is my social justice nonfiction project. Also, I will link below videos that talk about all of these projects in case you're interested in learning more. But the social justice nonfiction project has been going really, really well. I've very, very much enjoyed this project. So far this year, I have read 6 out of the 12 books that I want to read. Not necessarily from the TBR that I originally made myself. Some of them were, some of them weren't. But I have been really pleased that I'm getting myself to read about 1 nonfiction book a month, really taking a look at some of the social justice issues that I care about. I've also been making videos for these, so I've made 4 videos so far, and I do plan to make the remaining 2 videos for the books that I've read that I just haven't done videos for yet, but they are books that I have buddy read, so I just need to coordinate that with my buddy reading partners so that we can make those videos together. So overall, 2020 is actually going pretty well in terms of my reading and channel goals. Most of them I am hitting, although there are a couple where I need to do a little bit better, or just one where I'm really not doing well at all. But still, I'm very pleased with how on track I am with most of my goals. If you guys have checked in on your reading and taken a look at your goals, let me know down below like what you're succeeding at, or where you're kind of finding your priorities shifted, or you're just not interested, or you're just struggling to get through that priority. I'd love to chat with you about that down below.